Hello and welcome to another video. So in the last video, what we did is pushed our application live where we deployed our application to Heroku. Now Heroku doesn't come with the provisions for serving our media files. So actually Heroku does recommend that we set up Amazon S3 for serving our static files and also our media files. Now S3 stands for simple service storage, I guess, but we'll see that in a bit. So to start off with, I have this cheat sheet right here, and I have a summary of the steps that we'll need to follow to create our Amazon S3 buckets and connect them to our applications so that we can see the images for our files right here. So first things first, we're going to hop over to Amazon S3 and create a new bucket. So hop over to Amazon S3. First things first, if you're not or if you don't have an Amazon S3 account, you can just type in Amazon S3 and you can just create an account, or if you have an account you can sign in console, and this account will require you to supply your credit card information, so make sure that you have a credit card on tier. Now it's not going to be charged because this is a free tier unless you exceed some limit or some usage. So I already am logged into the console itself, and the service that we're going to be using is S3, as I said. Now you can look through all these services right here and find S3, but you can just type in S3 right here, and scalable storage in the cloud is what you need. And so S3 is simple storage service, I guess. Now, step one is creating the bucket, and the bucket name will say Butex ecom, and this bucket name must be unique, and as you can see, it doesn't have to contain spaces or uppercase characters. You can choose the region. I like to use Oregon, US 2. Block all public access. Now make sure you have that unchecked because we are going to be doing our API calls from our code. Now if you have this checked like this, it's going to block all public access for our bucket. Now make sure you uncheck that and acknowledge that if with your current settings that the objects in the bucket might be publicly accessible. So you can disable versioning and leave all the defaults to what they are, and you can go ahead and create that bucket. And as you can see, we have our bucket created, Butexicom, and if you click on the bucket itself, if you go to permissions, and this is where you can also turn off the public access. Now turn on and off the public access. If we go back to our cheat sheet, we've created our buckets. The step number 2 is we are going to add the permission, which is the course configuration. Now I'll make sure I'll leave this linked up in the description section below so that you can have access to this file. So copy the course configuration, and if we got the course configuration, paste it there and save it. Make sure you have everything copied out correctly. Now for the bucket policy, if you do a search on the AWS bucket policies, and if we check the docs.aws.com, AWS actually has this documentation that gives you insights on the different policies for different uses. So you can go ahead and read all through, but I've already done that for you. If we go to policy and our cheat sheet, now if your bucket is only going to be accessed by a specific application, for example this endpoint here, you can explicitly state that inside the referrer, and you make sure that you have both versions of the URL. Now if your bucket is going to be publicly accessible, for example if you're sending emails, now that means that your bucket is being accessed publicly, for example by an SMTP service like Google, or a host like if you're doing, let's say, from SendGrid or all that. Now that will mean that your bucket is publicly accessible. So you'll not need this strict policy here. So we can go with the lax policy, and if we paste it there, and it's not called the lax policy, I just like to call it that way. And the name of our uh, bucket, we can paste it there, which is Putex ecom, and save everything. And what this will tell us is, now that our bucket is publicly accessible, it will warn you that your bucket is publicly accessible, which is fine and also not fine. So depending on your usage, do what suits you best. If we go to the overview and go back to our cheat sheet, and we are done with step 2. So step 3, create an identity access management user, and we are going to select the access type to be programmatic. If we go back to the services and search for IAM, so IAM or identity access management user, and as you can see, I already have one user there, which is for my other application. Now, if we go to add user, we can set the name to be Butexicom, which is the same as our application. And the access type, as I said, we set that to programmatic access. The next permission, we can create a group for that user. And the group, we can call it, let's do ecom Butex like that. And for the policies, we're looking for the S3 policies, and what we need is the S3 full access. So let's go ahead and create the group. That will take a second there. So make sure that the group that you need is selected there. So we have the ecom Butex group. If we go to tags, you can add in any tags in here. Make sure that you know what you're doing. So in here we have our summary. We have the username Butexicom, and make sure you remember your username because we are going to be needing it, and also the bucket name. So everything looks fine. We're going to go ahead and create the user right there, and we have successfully created the user. Now, when you create the user, you're given your API keys. One of them is the access key ID and the secret access key. Now, once you hit show and refresh the application, you'll not be able to view your secret access key. So what I recommend is you copy it into some file. For example, this is the secret access key, and our key ID, we can also copy the key ID and paste it there. So now we are safe. And if you also go back to the cheat sheet, we have the user, permissions, access key ID, and the secret key. Now what we need to do is install Bodo 3 and Django storages. So copy that. If we go to our code, let me get rid of that terminal there. And if we do, what is that? Pip install Django storages. So pip install Django storages, and then we can do borrow 3. Now I can tag on dash dash upgrade since I already have them installed in my machine, but you'll be doing it for the first time. Now, as you can see, collecting borrow 3 and borrow core. So successfully it uninstalls the previous version and installs the newest version. So we have everything set up correctly. We have Borgo installed. Now we need to add storages to installed apps. So inside our settings, under installed apps, we can go ahead and add in storages right there and make sure it's at the top. Just to be safe, we have storages there. And we can go ahead and save everything and we can migrate. So let's do python manage.py migrate, and that will just apply the pending migrations for application. and that did that. So if we go back to our cheat sheet, now we're going to create a new file and call it, you can name it anything .py, and we're going to initialize it as a package if it's not a folder that's already initialized as a package. And inside the file, we need to put in the code as below. So I'll just use our catalog app. Inside the catalog app, storage storage backends.py, paste it there, and from storages.backends.s3 border 3, we are importing this class there, and we're creating these two classes there, one for the static storage and one for the media storage, and all of them are inheriting from the S3 border 3 storage. Now Heroku actually serves the static files correctly, so what you can do is get rid of the static files from the beginning, and we can just be left with the media storage there, which inherits from the S3 border 3. We can set the location to media, default access control list, set that to private, and we can set the file override to false. Now what this means is, if you upload a file, for example, with the same file name, if you upload two files, or if you uploaded a file like profile.jpg and you upload another file profile.jpg, now what this tells AWS to do is to take that second profile.jpg file and append some characters to the end there so that it distinguishes those two files. So save everything correctly. Now if we go back to our cheat sheet, we'll need to add this configuration inside our settings.py, which are specific for the AWS settings. So we can do that right at the bottom, right below the static configurations. Now in here we have the access key ID. Now remember the access key ID that I told you to copy. If we copy the access key ID, we can paste it there, and if we do the secret key, we can copy that there. So make sure you're using your secret key, and I'll make sure I'll take this down whenever I push this video live, so you're not going to be able to use this. Now for the bucket name, it was Butex ecom. If we can just go ahead and confirm, if we go to services 3, we should be able to see the name of our bucket there. So our bucket was Butex ecom. So if we select that, make sure the name is that. So Butex ecom. File override, again we're setting it to false. The control access control list was setting to none. Now for the custom domain, this is going to specify the complete URI to our files inside the buckets. So we are setting an f string of the bucket storage name, so it will be butex ecom, then slash or .s3 amazon aws.com. You get the point. So that is the custom domain. Then the S3 object parameters, we are setting the cache control to a max age of 86,400, which is just about 24 hours. So we have our media files, our media configurations from before. We can get rid of those, and if we go back to our cheat sheet, and we have that there. For the static location, we can leave that. We can just go with the media location. And for the public media location, we are setting that to a folder named media. Now for the media URL, it will be our custom domain URL, then slash media, which is our public media location. Now for the default file storage, this is coming off of the catalog app, so we can do catalog.storage backends. So make sure you have that spelled correctly, or whatever your file name is. So I'll make sure save that right there. Now if we go to Django storages, now Django storages also has some pretty good documentation. Now this is where I'm getting all this. So you might be wondering where this is all this coming from. Now you can go ahead and read all through this, but I've extracted all the important information for you. If we go back to our cheat sheet, we have our bucket policies there, and access the console and drag the media files in the S3 buckets. Now if we check our project folder, there are no any media files in here. So what we'll need to do is if we run python manage.py collect static, it's going to collect our static files, and if you have any media files, we'll have to drag them manually to that bucket. So python manage.py collect static. If we do a yes, and that is going to override our static files there. All right. So we have 527 unmodified static files there. So I already ran that command. That's why there were no new files copied there. So if we run our server and view our files, so before we commit our files to Heroku, so if we do python manage.py run server, that should start our development server. Let's see if our images are being served locally, which they aren't. If we go to the admin page and see if you can change the images from there. Now what I'm going to do is pause the video and change the images, and I'll see you. So I just went ahead and added the images for our 7 products there. Now if we view our site, now we see the images are showing up. If we click the image there and go to the detail page, if we open the image in the new tab, now as you can see, the custom URL is showing up there and it's giving the complete path to the media file inside our S3 bucket. Now if we go to the S3 bucket and refresh, we should now see the images right there. So inside the bucket, we have this media folder there, and inside the media folder, we have the product images, and those are the 7 images. And this is coming off of the, if we go to the models, we specify the upload to product images, and inside the storage buckets, we set the location to media, which created a new file, a new folder rather, which was named media, and the public media location set to media itself. So everything looks fine. Now we are ready to commit our changes to Heroku and see if the images are going to show onto our real application, which is our live application, which is this one right here. So to commit the changes, make sure I close all of these tabs right here. That, and check, and if we close the server there, if we click the server, now to push our code to Heroku, first things first, we need to be authenticated in our CLI. I'm going to be using the Heroku CLI. So if we do a Heroku login to be authenticated, and what this is going to do is it will pop up a new tab in the browser for us to authenticate ourselves through the CLI, which is short for command line interface. Now what this page is saying that is we can close the page and return to the CLI, and we should be now logged in. So all right, so to first things first, we'll add everything there, and this file has original endings. So we'll add those, then we'll do a commit, git commit dash add message, and we'll say message is AWS, and we'll make our commit. Then let's do the push, so git push Heroku master, like that. Now what this is going to do is it will check through our file and see if you have any build packs set. Now, as you can see, first things first, it detects a Python app, and that is based off of the build packs that you set inside the Heroku application itself. So this is going to go through all the process of installing. Now I'm going to pause the video. So that took quite a bit there, but if you can just walk through what happened. Now Python app detected, and that is because of the build packs that we set inside our Heroku app. Now, as you can see, it installs all the dependencies for our application, and that is based off of the requirements.txt. Now, what I failed to mention inside in the last video is once you install your applications or you install your dependencies, once we did the pip installed Bodo 3 and the Django storages, so make sure you have all those added to your requirements.txt. Otherwise, this is not going to work. You'll run into an error which is quite hard to debug. So it installed all those requirements with pip, and then Python manage.py collect static. There was no input because we had collected our static files already. Now discovering process types, and proc file declares types as the web, and inside the proc file we declare the web process, and we're using gunicorn to serve our file, our Python application, which is just referencing the WSGI file inside our settings. So after that, it compresses everything and releases a new version. So to check up our new app, we can do Heroku open like that, and that will open our application inside the browser. So give it a sec there, and boom, we have our images showing up there. So if you click the image there and open the image in a new tab, we see the image is being served off of the Amazon S3 bucket that we just created. So we can test the functionality, add to cart. We have to be authenticated to add items to the cart. We have our items showing there. We can proceed to checkout and try to complete the process. We can add an address, select Stripe as the payment method, continue to payment. After that, we can fill in the test Stripe credit card number, which is just 42424 times, and submit our payment. And we're getting this authentication error, which is right, because if we go to our catalog app and inside the views, we'll need to supply our API key. Now, so go make sure you supply your API key there, and the whole process should be as smooth as it should be. So if we go back to application, everything looks correctly. All the images are serving up correctly. Now, I think this is going to do it for this video. In the next video, we are going to see how we can connect Postgres or any relational database service to our application, so that we don't have to be using our SQLite that is supplied by Django, so that every time we make changes, all those changes are being updated on the fly and in a database that is hosted online. So we want to make sure that we have that database that is hosted online, not our SQLite that lives on a local machine. So thank you for watching this video. Otherwise, I'll see you in the next video.